I'm here with One Championship founder and CEO, Chatri Sityodtong. He's talking exclusively today to the South China Morning Post. Chatri, it's been a while since we last sat down and caught up. So first of all, I just want to ask you, how's everything going with One Championship in 2024?
Amazing. I'm on a plane every week. So it's just been, our growth has been phenomenal. I get the data around the world in terms of our viewership data, our engagement data. And every single country is like hockey sticking up, which is great. Just too many things to do, but very, very, very excited that the fans have really embraced our brand, our athletes, just super exciting times.
So you've talked about the different countries. Obviously, Thailand has become a huge part of what One Championship is doing. If you had told me, I think like 2 years ago, this Muay Thai with the small gloves, it's going to come in, it's going to become the most popular form of the sport, the 3-round fights, I would have said absolutely no chance. I mean, has that taken you by surprise as well, or is that something that you always anticipated?
No, it definitely took me by surprise. I mean, as you know, James, I mean, the Muay Thai industry is not a straightforward, easy industry to do well in. It's has a lot of history. It has a lot of the elements of gambling, of mafia, of just very complex and highly political. It's obviously the national treasure of Thailand. At the same time, the military controls Lumpini Stadium, which is obviously Mecca Muay Thai. And then of course there's all this underpinning of layers and layers of complexities and intertwined with savory and unsavory characters.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously it's kind of become quite iconic now when Mitch Chilson says, Chatri Sityodtong is giving you $10,000 or $50,000. So do you really watch every single show, or do you sometimes delegate?
Oh, no. I watch 95% of the shows, 95% of the fights, every show. I'm on a plane. If I'm on a plane, that's the only time I won't watch a show and I'll delegate to my team. But no, 97% of all fights I watch.
So were you watching last Friday?
All the bonuses I gave personally.
So I saw something last Friday, which for me really encapsulated how Muay Thai has changed, which was with about 20 seconds to go in the final round, the main event, Superlek, he knocked Revitalizing down, and he knocked him down for the second time. So at that stage in the fight, there's absolutely no way that he can lose, really. I mean, the guy's got 5 seconds to knock him out. He's got 2 knockdowns. There's no way he can lose a decision, basically. And I saw Superlek's corner, and they're like, come on, with 10 seconds to go. They wanted him to fight. And the only reason for me that could be is they're thinking, I want him to get the bonus here. There was like, in Lumpini, Ratchadamnern, with a 5-round Muay Thai, if the fighter's ahead, everyone's like, stay back, because they don't want to risk their money. I mean, did you notice that? And how pleased are you that the sport has kind of changed?
Well, I mean, when we designed the product, and I personally designed this product, right? Very, very involved, obviously, because of my Muay Thai background, but at the same time, once the military invited me to become the largest promoter of Lumpini Stadium, and I actually spent many weeks thinking about whether I accept the offer or not, because I didn't want to just come in when One Champ was already doing well, come in and be a part of something that is unsavory, right? And I didn't want to be a part of something that was corrupt and if you look at the last 10 years, Muay Thai has been on a decline, even in Thailand, because of all the scandals every week of this fighter throwing the fight, or this judge was paid off, or this referee or this promoter, or whatever it is. And so the product was specifically designed, no gamblers allowed in the stadium. It had to be 100% pure sport, with the highest integrity of justice and fairness to the athletes. No outside influence allowed. This is very hard, tough stuff to do in Thailand. I mean, because again, as I said, it's a very complex system with a lot of mafia and military involved, and it's just again, there's good people, there's bad people, like every industry, but the bad people in this industry in particular seem, are 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 highly corrupt. So we're very, very lucky. I mean, from the day one that we launched One Friday Fights at Lumpini, it became the #1 hit show in Thailand. Not just for, by the way, sports, not for just for Muay Thai. It was the #1 Muay Thai show every week, of course, but all sports, all entertainment, all news, all general, like literally movies, TV shows, soap operas. It's been every content stack every single week on Friday night primetime live. So it's crazy. I never thought that it would. I mean, if you look at even history, soap operas in Thailand is the #1 performing viewership content. And when Channel 7 had the idea of bringing one in to go head to head with the soap operas, 50-year history of soap operas, where every major channel had soap operas, for us to come in, I just didn't have the confidence that we would be #1. But of course, I had the confidence we had something very unique as a product. And lo and behold, the entire country of Thailand, as you know, James, you live there. The entire country of Thailand is literally made one championship a household name, and one has won the hearts and minds of 70 million people in the country.
So I think you and me could probably talk about the evolution of Muay Thai and the history of Muay Thai all day. But let's move it on, because I'm sure there's some topics that other people are going to be interested in. First and foremost, Smilla Sundell, she missed weight last night. Obviously, she's 19 years old. She's been in that division, I think, since she signed with you when she was 16, 17. I know you hold your champions to very high standards, but how much sympathy do you have with her in that situation?
Smilla is a unique case. Not only she's the world's best by far, by a large margin, but when she won the world title, she had just turned 17, and she was 5'8". Today she's 5'11", right? Right. So she had a growth spurt, and it's all. At some point, I knew she would have to move up. I didn't think she was going to miss weight, but at the same time, I knew she was struggling very, very, very hard to make it. And to be a 17-year-old and be a world champion, and then have this growth spurt on you and still try to maintain weight, is very, very difficult. So it's not a lack of professionalism. It's not a lack of trying. It's not a lack of excellence by Smilla. She is a world champion. She's the best of the best. It's just that, Mother Nature had different plans for her. So I feel sorry for her, because I know she tried very hard, and, she had a great training camp. I spoke to the Fairtex team last night when she missed. And they said, it was they knew it was gonna be very, very close, despite having an incredible camp and diet and everything, just because of her growth spurt.
So you said Mother Nature had different plans for Smilla. What about your plans for Smilla? Because you don't currently have a flyweight division. Are you planning to create one for her? What does the future hold?
No, so we have been looking at the flyweight division, for a long time now, the female flyweight division, and definitely we want to do it. So there's a lot of female flyweights out there that are tremendous, and would give Smilla a very hard time. And I think, in line with being the best of the best, we definitely would strongly consider this. So I'm not saying it's imminent, but let's see how Smilla does with Natalia on tomorrow, and then go from there.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about Thailand. I'd also like to talk about Japan, because all your cards these days seem to have like 3, 4 Japanese fighters. You obviously did your first show in Tokyo since, I think, 2019 recently, and I believe you've got another show booked in Tokyo for later this year. Can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, we have a show booked for Q3 of this year. I think we're going to announce it in the next few weeks. Tickets go on sale in the next few weeks. But yeah, Japan is obviously, monumental in the history of mixed martial arts. It is the birthplace of mixed martial arts. It's the birthplace of kickboxing. And we happen to have signed the two biggest combat sports stars outside of Inoue and Tenshin, in Takeru and Noiri. Japan is a fantastic market. Still one of the world's largest economies in the world. It's so steep in history and culture in terms of martial arts. even to this day, every child in Japan has to spend at least 5 years doing either kendo, aikido, or judo or karate. And that is, that's how serious martial arts is in the culture of Japan. And so I feel like it's a homecoming, and I feel like we're going to be bigger than ever before. We had a lot of momentum in 2019 in Japan, but then of course COVID hit. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we believe that we're going to lead the revolution of revival of martial arts in Japan.
And you've got, among the Japanese fighters who are fighting on Saturday, you've got Hiroki Akamoto, who's fighting Wei Rui. I probably butchered that pronunciation. But do you feel that kind of rivalry between Japan and China is one that hasn't really been explored in combat sports? And is that something that you'd really like to explore with one championship?
No, the way, rather than think for us in terms of, country versus country, which of course we do, as a consequence, but really it's about getting the best of the best in each country to face each other. So whether it's China versus America or China versus Japan, it's like, no matter what, we want the best. And obviously Wen Rui is the best in China, best striker by far, pound for pound. And Hiroki is definitely one of the best. He, Noiri, and Takeru are, pound for pound, the best strikers out of Japan today. So I think it makes for an interesting one. And of course, the history between Japan and China does make for an even richer storyline. But I think, again, we try to focus on just getting the very best athletes from every country and putting them up. But of course, China is a very important market for us. And that's why we've got the very best Chinese athletes on the planet.
So for your next show in Tokyo, presumably Takeru versus Rodtang, that's a fight to make, right?
I want to make that fight for sure. Takeru is still recovering from his knee injury. I don't know if you know that Superlek ended up breaking his knee.
Yeah.
Extensive damage. So Takeru still is unable to kick today. So let's see what happens. I definitely want to try to make that for this year. There is a possibility it may not be this year. It may end up sliding into early next year. But definitely want to make that fight. That's if you look at the Japanese market, that is the biggest fight to make outside an Inoue title defense. That is the biggest fight by far for Japan mainstream. Rodtang versus Takeru.
And that moves me on nicely to, obviously we don't have a date yet for that card in Tokyo. We do have a date for your next card in the US. And you've got Xiong Jingnan fighting Stamp Fairtex in the main event. I mean, for me, I look at Stamp and I think she's 5'2". She's not big for an atom weight, but she was the one who was calling out Xiong Jingnan, saying she wanted to move up in weight. Were you surprised that Stamp asked for that fight? And do you think maybe it's a bad fight for Stamp just because of the size difference?
Yeah, so I can tell you, anecdotally, from people who've trained with Jingnan's left hook and overhand right, it's like a truck, and the size difference. But at the same time, Stamp is a world-class striker with, hundreds of Muay Thai fights. So I think she's not afraid of that power because she's going to be technical about it. And I think, wrestling, I think both of them are not high-level wrestlers. I think both of them have strong jiu-jitsu. So I have this feeling that it's going to end up being a striking war. KO power and size goes to Jingnan, and technical prowess and experience goes to Stamp. So I think it's going to be an incredible fight for the fans. And I do think it's going to end with a finish, though.
You've got a lot of fighters who are on that card who also have fights coming up at the card beforehand in Bangkok. Does that make you a little bit nervous?
Well, when our matchmaking team went through this, it's basically they want to make sure that there are legitimate reasons for a fight and a storyline, obviously, for the fight. And that's, whether something is happening today or 3 months from now, if Stamp was having to defend her atomweight title, and then we that was the fight afterwards, then I agree with you, because she's defending her atomweight title in June, right, at Impact Arena, but she's moving up to strawweight division against Jingnan. So those are totally two separate storylines that have no bearing on whether she wins or loses in June, right? So I think that the matchmaking team has done a great job in figuring out great storylines, and yet that aren't necessarily results dependent. So for example, if you compete in another martial art as you know, in one champion, there's multiple combat sports, right? So that's another storyline, right? There's so many different storylines that our fans love, and our matchmaking team and our marketing team spend a lot of time making sure that their storylines for different geographies and around the world. Again, but obviously the major storyline is best versus the best on the planet.
And on the subject of storylines, Superlek Kiat Mugao, he beat Rodtang, then he beat Takeru. Now he's moving up in weight to face Haggerty. I mean, those are three of the biggest names on the One Championship roster. I think if Superlek beats Haggerty, where does that put him in the grand scheme of things in terms of the best kickboxers, the best Muay Thai fighters on the planet?
Yeah, best striker, full stop. I mean, Superlek's definitely there. I mean, he's definitely pound for pound one of the very, very best strikers on the planet. Any martial arts, right? His IQ, his fight IQ is insane. I mean, James, you probably were able to pick apart all the little tricks he was doing against Takeru. Just really genius level stuff. On the surface, it looked like he was just doing leg kicks. But if you look at how he was setting things up, how he was disrupting Takeru's ability to throw massive power punches, the angles, the little tricks, the off balancing, the change in speed of his strikes. Like, he was really not allowing Takeru to settle down into a pattern, being able to recognize Superlek's patterns. So that's, again, like really just genius level stuff. And at the same time, he has massive power. He packs an incredible kick, and he's got solid punching power. So yeah, I agree. It's going to be an exciting fight. And the American fans are going to go nuts. This is the highest level of striking on the planet between Superlek and Haggerty. It doesn't get better than that. It literally doesn't get better than that in terms of elite level technical abilities, but also power and precision.
So obviously you have your regular cards in Thailand. So far this year, you've also been to Qatar. You've also been to Tokyo. You've got an event booked in Denver. You've just confirmed that you're going back to Tokyo towards the end of the year. We touched on China earlier. Are there any other countries that we could be seeing the One Championship event in?
There is another US event coming up this year. We'll announce it in the next few weeks. Yeah. Another US event later this year.
And what about China? Because obviously you had quite a heavy presence in China before the pandemic. Is that something that's on the agenda?
Yeah, we're, without letting the cat out of the bag, there's a lot of exciting countries that we're potentially looking at to host, major events. These things, it requires a lot of different input factors and to make sure. So definitely China is on the list. Definitely Middle East is still on the list, potentially for this year as well. And the US, again, we haven't announced another US event. And, we are going to be doing US events on a quarterly basis at a minimum, starting with this Denver onwards. We'll be on ground in the US on a quarterly basis, and ideally eventually a monthly basis. So again, a lot of plans around the world. I still think we're going to sell out Wembley Arena easily with a Haggerty versus Liam Harrison in the UK. There's just so much opportunity. Our fan base is rabid. It's exploding everywhere, and for whatever just people gravitating to this to the fact that we're the home of martial arts and have all these multiple combat sports at the very highest levels in the world, right? So even a Mikey versus Cade in Denver for grappling is taking the jiu-jitsu world by storm. People are so pumped for that fight. People around the world, I mean, can't believe that Mikey's moving up 3 weight divisions to face Cade, two of the most exciting jiu-jitsu world champions on the planet. So, and James, I genuinely believe this is just the beginning of One Championship. Yes, we're already the world's largest martial arts organization, according to Nielsen, but I just feel like this is just the very beginning of the One Championship journey. And this is what I tell my team at our company meetings. Like, yes, there are 2 global giants in combat sports now in between UFC and One, but I just feel like we're just at the very beginning of the things we're going to end up achieving.
I wanted to ask you about your US card, the Denver card that's upcoming, because I wasn't at the last show, but you had it headlined by Demetrius Johnson, who's obviously headlined like numerous UFC cards. But everyone who was there said that the biggest cheer of the night was for Rodtang and for Stamp Fairtex. And I see your next card. Obviously, you've got Stamp Fairtex headlining. Was that something that took you by surprise? How?
Yes, yes, yes. So I actually had goosebumps, because Rodtang and Stamp, they don't speak English. Actually, Stamp can speak English now, but she's a little shy. But yeah, last year, by far, the loudest standing ovation by far was Rodtang, and then second was Stamp. I mean, it was deafening. And to think that they don't even speak English, and people are just chanting them just purely out of who they are and their abilities as the world's best, right? That, yeah, I had goosebumps, and obviously for me, having a Muay Thai background, it was a very proud moment, just to be very blunt, as someone who grew up in Thailand and spent, I still train every day, right? But I mean, I spent a long time in Muay Thai, as a student, competitor, coach, and all that stuff. And so, obviously not an elite competitor, but nonetheless, I did spend my dues, in Muay Thai, and to see that explode in America, it's crazy. It's wild. It's crazy. Again, even one Friday fights, it's crazy how it's taken the entire country of Thailand, 70 million people by storm. You know, what's crazy, even I'll give you how powerful and how much the Thai people have embraced the One Championship brand and our athletes is on the weeks on the public holidays where we don't have a live event, we do a rerun, right, of an old event. We're still number one with the rerun. That's what's crazy. It's just it doesn't make any sense, but at the same time, I'm truly grateful to the Thai people for embracing One Championship, um, as the most popular sports property in the history of the country. More than Thai Premier League was at its heydays, more than volleyball, more than any sport, literally. No one's had this kind of viewership and ratings, at such a wide scale on a consistently basis every week in and week out, right? So
Okay, so that brings me on to my final question. I know you're a busy man. We're very grateful for you for sharing your time with us. I wanted to know, because I was at the inaugural One Championship show in 2011. You were too, obviously. How many of the things that have changed? Obviously, there've been some big differences in terms of the products. Now you're doing all the different combat sports. In terms of the place, you're in Thailand now more than Singapore. The platform, you're on Amazon Prime, you're on Sky Sports. How many of these changes did you have mapped out in your mind from day one? And how many of them have taken even you by surprise?
um, so I always thought there was an opportunity for Asia to create a big powerhouse global sports property. I never thought that we would be top five in the world uh, so quickly. When Nielsen came out with that big global sports industry report a couple of years ago, ranking us number five, that was mind blowing to me. I knew we were going very fast, but I had no idea that we were as big as NBA or bigger than Premier League globally. I just had no idea, right? But of course, the game plan was to be in every country. Today, we're broadcast live in 195 countries every week, and our ratings are very strong in many, many countries, and just hockey sticking, right? Even on social data. And I think it comes down to people want to see the world's best. So, like the Olympics, which we have, and at the same time, people want to see um, real wholesome sports values, just like the Olympics. And I think that combination of the world's very, very best martial artists on the planet across all the disciplines, combined with the fact that One Champion is able to authentically express martial arts and the true values of martial arts, um, has really separated us from the pack. But at the same time, I give credit where credit is due. I have a lot of respect for the UFC. They're the biggest player in the West. We're the biggest player in the East. It's a global duopoly, and of course, they have a 20-year head start over one. So they are advanced in different areas, but at the same time, in terms of pure viewership, pure fandom, we are of equal size per the Nielsen data. And so, yeah, to answer your question, I never expected this, especially only 12 years into the journey. Never in a million years. But I always did believe that my team and I were going to do something very special. I always believed that in my heart. And that's the only way we got through COVID, to be very frank. During COVID, there was, moments where I thought, man, we might not survive, because we didn't know if borders were going to be shut for a month or 3 years. We had no idea if we could bring back live events, right? Because everything was shut down in Singapore and actually many parts of the world, most parts of the world. And that lack of visibility was very, very scary. But I give full credit to my team for their passion and their excellence. But James, I'm telling you, this is just the beginning. Our growth rates, when I look at all the major countries that we're in, literally it's hockey stick charts in terms of viewership numbers, in terms of revenue opportunity. It's crazy.
So I can't resist. I've got one more question for you, because you just sprung me really nicely onto something that I would like to talk about. You mentioned COVID. I think there's an old saying about a crisis being an opportunity. Do you think you would have ever have had the opportunity to step in and be the main promoter at Lumpini Stadium if it hadn't been for the COVID crisis?
That's a good question. So I didn't know that the Thai military was researching me and One Chai for 3 years prior to inviting me. And so obviously part of that was during COVID period. I think Muay Thai is a national treasure of Thailand. And I think universally everyone knew, whether it's government, businesses, or the Muay Thai ecosystem, that Muay Thai was slowly dying because of all these scandals. The last 10 years, viewership numbers were down, sponsorship was down, pay was down, everything was down. It definitely needed a massive jolt in order to revive the sport. And now it's the most popular it's ever been. That's what's crazy. It took 1 year for one championship to completely turn to turn around the entire industry in Thailand, but around the world. As I said, our numbers, I would argue that One Friday Fights is the single most exciting combat sports product on the planet. The level of expertise, the world's best, and the intensity of the action and the number of knockdowns and knockouts is unprecedented. I think, that combination is what makes it so exciting.
Okay, thank you so much. I know you're a busy man, so thank you so much for sharing your time with us. This is James Goyder for South China Morning Post with Chatri Sityodtong.
Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with a word.